Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host.
And I'm your expert. Great to be here.
Today we're really getting into something specific, a real challenge for lots of people. Mastering IELTS, reading multiple choice questions.
Yeah, this is a big one. We've pulled together some great insights, mainly from IELTS experts Sarah and Peter.
Exactly. And our mission really is to give you practical strategies. We want to move you past just, reading the text and kind of hoping you stumble on the right answer.
We're aiming for tools that help you tackle these questions efficiently, save that precious time, and boost your accuracy. It's about being strategic.
Okay, let me dive in. First off, for anyone maybe newer to IELTS Academic, what exactly are these multiple choice questions? What do they look like?
Right. So typically you get a question, or sometimes it's the start of a sentence you need to finish.
Okay.
And then you'll usually see, say, 3 or 4 options, A, B, C, D. Your task is to pick the one option that correctly answers the question or completes that sentence.
And crucially?
Crucially, based only on the information given in the reading passage right there in front of you.
Gotcha. But sometimes there's a slight variation, right? It's not always just picking one.
That's a really important point. You absolutely have to read the instructions for each set of questions carefully. Sometimes, maybe less often, but it happens. They'll give you, say, 5 options and ask you to choose 2 correct answers.
Ah, okay. So rule number 1 is don't skim the instructions. Know exactly how many answers you need to find.
Precisely. Read the instructions, then really focus on understanding the question itself before you even look properly at the A, B, C, D options.
It sounds simple, but rushing past the question to jump to the answers must be a common mistake.
Oh, absolutely. Misunderstanding what's actually being asked is a huge pitfall. Get the question clear in your head first.
Okay, understood. So we know what we're up against. Let's talk tactics. Pro tip number 1. And this might feel counterintuitive to some. Don't read the whole passage first. Why not?
Well, it seems logical, right? Read the text, then answer the questions. But these passages, they can be pretty long, quite dense.
Yeah, they pack a lot in.
Exactly. And if you read it all without specific questions in mind, you're not really reading actively. You're just sort of absorbing vaguely.
Like trying to memorize a whole phone book before you know whose number you need?
Huh. That's a great analogy. Yes, it's inefficient. You waste time, and chances are you'll have to go back and reread sections anyway once you do see the questions.
Okay, so that initial cover-to-cover read is out. What's the smarter first step then?
The recommended approach, the strategic one, is read the multiple choice question first.
Just the question.
Read the question carefully, and then read all the answer options, A, B, C, D, that go with it.
Ah, okay. So you know what you're potentially looking for before you hit the main text.
Exactly. It primes your brain. You know the target information.
So I've read the question, I've read the options. What's the very next step?
Now you identify the keywords. This is crucial. Look at the question stem and each of the answer choices. What are the main nouns, verbs, adjectives? The words carrying the core meaning.
The signposts, as you called them earlier.
Precisely. These are your signposts. Underline them mentally or physically if you can.
Okay, got my keywords from the question and options. Now, how do I use them with the passage?
Right. Now you scan the passage. You're not reading word for word anymore. Your eyes are actively hunting for those specific keywords.
Just the exact words.
Well, yes, the exact words, but also, and this is key for IELTS, you need to look for synonyms or paraphrased versions of those keywords. They love to reword things.
Okay, so increase in the question might be a rise or growth in the text.
Exactly that kind of thing. You're searching for the idea, not just the identical letters. This scanning approach is much faster.
So you scan, you find a section that seems relevant based on keywords or synonyms. What then? This leads us to the next challenge, doesn't it? The feeling that multiple answers could be right.
Yes. And that brings us neatly to pro tip number 2, learning to spot the distractors. This is probably the biggest source of frustration for test takers.
I can imagine. You find something in the text that feels familiar, connects to an option, and you think, that's it.
Right. But the IELTS designers are very clever. Distractors are options specifically designed to look correct, especially if you've only skimmed or slightly misunderstood the text.
How do they do that? What makes them distracting?
Often they'll use words or phrases that are actually in the passage, so you get that flicker of recognition.
Ah, the hook.
Exactly. But the option either doesn't actually answer the specific question being asked, or it subtly twists the meaning of what the passage said. It might be only partially true or true in a different context.
Can you give us an example? Something based on what Sarah and Peter observed.
Sure. A classic example they give is, imagine the passage says something like, some scientists believe this theory.
Okay, some scientists.
Right. But then one of the multiple choice options might say, all scientists agree on this theory.
Ah, subtle but completely different. Some versus all.
Precisely. That change completely alters the meaning. The option uses the topic, scientist theory, but misrepresents the facts stated in the passage. That's a distractor.
So the devil is really in the detail. It's not about the general topic, but the precise information.
Exactly. You have to match the meaning perfectly. The answer must be explicitly supported by the text, not just vaguely related. No outside knowledge, no assumptions, just what's written there.
And there are certain types of words in the answer options that should immediately put us on high alert, aren't there?
Yes, absolutely. Be super cautious with extreme or absolute words. Think. All. Always. Never. Every. Only. Completely.
Why those words specifically?
Because academic writing, which these passages are usually based on, tends to be nuanced. It rarely makes such strong, unqualified claims. So if an answer choice uses always or never, it's often not always, but often a sign that it's incorrect because the passage probably includes exceptions or qualifications.
It sets a very high bar for proof in the text.
It does, so treat those words as potential red flags for distractors. Check them very carefully against the passage.
Okay, that's a really useful warning signal. So we're reading strategically, watching for distractors. What if we're still stuck between, say, two options? What's our next move?
That's where pro tip number 3 comes in handy. The process of elimination. Don't underestimate how powerful this is.
Okay, elimination. How does it work in practice?
Right, so you've narrowed it down. Maybe you have 2 options left, B and D, and you're unsure. Go back to the relevant part of the passage one more time.
Okay.
Now, instead of trying to prove one right, try to find definite evidence in the text that proves one of them wrong. Look for a direct contradiction.
Ah, so flipping the approach. Find the one that can't be true according to the text.
Exactly. Sometimes it's easier to disprove an option than to definitively prove another one. If you find clear evidence that option B contradicts the passage, you can confidently eliminate it.
And then, by default, D must be the answer, or at least the most likely answer based on the text.
Precisely. Even if you're not 100% certain why D is perfect, if you're certain B is wrong, your odds just got much better. You then compare the remaining options very closely to the text again.
It's about finding the best fit among the choices, given the textual evidence.
Yes. It's not about which answer sounds most reasonable in general or fits your prior knowledge. It's strictly about which answer is most accurately supported by that specific passage. Elimination helps you focus on that textual evidence.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
One final tip, and this one is about the structure of the test itself.
Yes. Pro tip number 4 is understanding the order of answers. This is a feature of how IELTS reading questions are often structured.
What's the pattern?
Generally, for question types like multiple choice, the answers appear in the passage in the same order as the questions are asked.
Really? So the answer to question 2 will be after the answer to question 1 in the text.
That's the typical pattern, yes. It's not a guaranteed ironclad rule for every single question type, but for MCQs, it holds true most of the time.
Wow. Okay, how can we leverage that?
Well, once you've located the information in the passage that gave you the answer to, say, question 5, you know that the information needed for question 6 is almost certainly going to be found later in the passage, not before the bit you just read for question 5.
So you don't have to constantly jump back to the beginning of the passage or scan the whole thing again for each question.
Exactly. It saves a huge amount of time and effort. It helps you navigate the text more efficiently. You work your way forward. If you think you found the answer to Q6 way back in paragraph 2, but you found Q5's answer in paragraph 4, something's probably wrong.
That's a fantastic structural clue. It really helps with pacing and knowing where to focus your scanning. Okay, brilliant. Let's do a quick recap of those 4 main strategies.
Sounds good. So, number 1, don't read the whole passage first. Read the question and the options, then scan for keywords and synonyms.
Got it. Number 2.
Watch out for distractors, especially those tricky absolute words like all, never, always, match meaning precisely.
Okay, 3.
Use the process of elimination. Actively look for reasons to rule out incorrect answers based on the text.
And number 4.
Remember that answers usually follow the order of the text. Use the location of one answer to help you find the next one.
Fantastic. These are really concrete things people can practice. And speaking of practice, That's the final essential piece, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely essential. Theory is great, but you need practice. Consistent practice with real, authentic IELTS reading materials is key.
Why is that so important?
Because the more you do it, the more familiar you become with the question style, the types of distractors they use, the way they paraphrase. You build that skill, that instinct for spotting the right answer and identifying the wrong ones quickly. It becomes almost second nature.
Like building muscle memory for reading comprehension under pressure.
Exactly. There's no substitute for actually doing the exercises, timing yourself, and analyzing your mistakes.
Great advice. So hopefully, armed with these strategies and a commitment to practice, our listeners can feel much more confident tackling those multiple choice questions.
That's the goal. Approach them strategically, not with guesswork.
Right. And just to leave everyone with something to think about, consider this. How might this intense focus on keywords, on questioning assumptions, on spotting subtle distortions like distractors, how might that change how you read and evaluate information outside of the IELTS test?
Interesting thought.
In news articles, reports, even emails. What hidden distractors or assumptions might be influencing your understanding without you even realizing it?
That's a really powerful takeaway, applying that critical lens more broadly.
Definitely something to ponder.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for diving deep with us today into the world of IELTS multiple choice.
My pleasure. Hope it was helpful.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Welcome back. Today we're tackling something that, well, seems to trip up a lot of people. Those true, false, not given questions on English reading tests.
Absolutely. They look simple on the surface, but digging into the materials you shared, it's clear they can be deceptively tricky.
Yeah, definitely see that. So our mission today,
To really get into the weeds, provide some solid techniques, so you can approach these with a lot more confidence. We want to move past those common errors.
sounds good.
Yeah.
We're drawing on some great expert sources and practice materials today. Let's start right at the beginning. The absolute basics. What does true actually mean in this context?
Right. So true means the statement perfectly aligns with information that's explicitly stated in the text.
Explicitly, so no guesswork.
No guesswork. It has to be right there, a direct match.
Okay, clear enough. And false, where does that differ?
False means there's a direct contradiction. The passage says one thing and the statement says the exact opposite.
Like the text says it's hot and the statement says it's cold.
Exactly that kind of direct opposition. If the text mentions, say, many birds fly, and the statement claims all birds fly, that word all makes the statement false because it contradicts the many in the text.
Got it. So it hinges on that direct clash of information.
Precisely.
And then the one that causes the most headaches, I think. Not given.
Ah, yes, not given. This is the tricky one. It means the specific information in the statement just isn't there in the passage.
So the topic might be there.
The topic might be mentioned, maybe related ideas, but the actual detail the statement is asking about, it's absent. You simply can't find the information to say whether it's true or false based only on the text.
Right. It's not implied. It's just not there.
Exactly. A lack of information.
And it's important, isn't it, to quickly mention this isn't the same as yes, no, not given.
Oh, good point. Yes, crucial distinction. Yes, no, not given deals with the writer's opinion or claims. Are you agreeing with the writer's view?
Whereas true, false, not given is purely about
Facts. Just the factual information presented in the text. Does the statement match the facts, contradict them, or are the facts missing? It's about information, not opinion.
okay, foundation laid. Let's move on to strategies. The first one that really comes through in the materials is about deconstructing the statement itself.
Yes, this is step one. Don't just read it quickly. Break it down. What's the subject? What's the verb or the core idea? And critically, what are the qualifiers?
Qualifiers. You mean words like all, some, never, often?
Exactly. Those words are hugely important because they define the scope of the statement. Words like always, only, most, at least. They can completely change whether a statement is true or false.
Right. A small word makes a big difference.
A huge difference. Let's take an example. Imagine a statement. All desert animals are active only at night.
Okay. Key qualifiers, there are all and only.
Right. Now, if the passage says many desert animals are nocturnal, but some are active during the cooler parts of the day, that statement is false.
Because of all and only.
Yes. The passage contradicts all by saying many and some, and it contradicts only at night by mentioning daytime activity, even if limited. One contradiction makes it false.
That really shows you need to read those statements so carefully. Okay, so after breaking down the statement, what's strategy number 2?
Strategy 2 involves keywords, but it's more sophisticated than just matching exact words. It's about keyword matching and understanding paraphrasing.
So finding the core concepts in the statement.
Yes, nouns, names, dates, key terms, and then scanning the passage for those words or their synonyms, their paraphrased equivalents.
Test makers love to paraphrase, don't they?
They absolutely do. They're testing your vocabulary and comprehension, not just your scanning ability. You need to recognize the same idea expressed in different words.
Could you give an example?
Sure. If the statement mentions teenagers, the passage might talk about young people aged 13, 19, or adolescents.
Okay.
Or a statement about rising sea levels might correspond to text discussing the increase in ocean water height.
So it's the meaning, not just the words.
Precisely. Understanding the underlying meaning is key. Don't get stuck just looking for the exact word if it's not there. Look for the idea.
Makes sense. Now let's circle back to that really common sticking point. The difference between false and not given. How do we get better at telling them apart?
Okay, let's really nail this down. False means the passage gives information that directly contradicts the statement. There's a clash.
A clear, no, that's wrong according to this text.
Exactly. For not given, the information to prove or disprove the statement simply isn't in the passage. The text is silent on that specific point.
Even if it talks about related things.
Even if it talks about the general topic. If that specific detail isn't addressed, you can't make a judgment. It has to be not given.
Okay, let's try an example what you might see on a test. Statement. The project's budget was exceeded by 10%.
Okay.
How would a passage make that false?
A false scenario would be if the passage explicitly said the project was completed exactly on budget, or the final costs were 5% under budget. That directly contradicts the exceeded by 10% claim.
Right. Clear opposition. And for not given.
For not given, the passage might discuss the project's goals, its timeline, the team members, maybe even say it faced challenges, but it never mentions the specific financial outcome regarding the budget. Did it exceed? Did it stay under? We don't know from the text.
So no mention of the budget outcome at all.
Correct. No specific information on that point. Not given.
That really helps clarify it. It's about the presence of contradictory info versus the complete absence of the relevant info.
You got it.
This leads into the next strategy, which seems to be about avoiding assumptions.
Yes, crucial. Be very wary of making inferences or bringing in your own outside knowledge. Stick only to what the passage explicitly states.
It's tempting sometimes, isn't it? You read something and think, oh, well, that probably means...
Very tempting. But if you have to make a logical leap or guess or use information not provided in that specific text, then the answer is almost certainly not given.
So the text is the entire world for these questions.
Exactly. Don't assume anything that isn't written down. For instance, statement. Children find online learning more engaging than traditional classes.
Okay.
If the passage discusses the benefits of online learning, but only focuses on university students or adult learners,
Then you can't say anything about children's preferences.
right, the passage gives zero information on children's views. So even though the topic online learning is there, the specific point about children's engagement is missing. It has to be not given.
Stay within the four corners of the text.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, strategy 5 mentioned in the sources is about passage order. How does that help?
This is a really practical tip. Generally, the true, false, not given questions follow the order of the information presented in the passage.
Oh, that is helpful.
Yeah. So the answer to question 1 will usually be found earlier in the text than the answer to question 2, which will be earlier than question 3, and so on.
So once you find the spot for one answer,
You know roughly where to look for the next one, usually further down. It helps you navigate the text more efficiently and saves time scanning the whole thing over and over.
like having little signposts through the text.
Kind of, yeah. It's not a foolproof rule. Sometimes it might jump slightly, but it's a very strong tendency and a good time saver to keep in mind.
Great practical tip. Okay, finally, let's talk practice. Just doing lots of questions isn't enough, is it? How should we practice effectively?
That's right. Volume alone isn't the key. The most effective practice involves using materials that give you explanations for the answers, not just the answer key.
So you need to know why it's true, false, or not given.
Exactly. Understanding the reasoning is where the real learning happens. Why was this false? Where exactly was the contradiction? Why was this not given? Where is the information missing? Analyzing the explanations is crucial.
And what about tracking mistakes?
Definitely. Keep a log, like we've discussed before. Notice your patterns. Are you always getting tripped up by qualifiers like all or some? Are you constantly confusing false and not given? Maybe you're relying too much on your own assumptions. Identifying your specific weaknesses allows you to focus your study more effectively.
Makes perfect sense. Focus on the why behind the errors.
That's the path to improvement.
Okay, fantastic. Let's do a quick recap of these key strategies then.
Sure. First, break down the statement. Scrutinize every part, especially qualifiers.
Second, scan for keywords, but be ready for paraphrasing. Understand the meaning, not just the words.
Third, master the difference. True, match, false, contradiction, not given, information is missing.
Fourth, no assumptions. Stick strictly to the text provided. Don't bring in outside knowledge.
Fifth, use the passage order. Answers generally follow the sequence of information in the text.
And sixth, practice smart. Use materials with explanations and analyze your mistakes. Understand the why.
Exactly. Put those together, practice consistently, and these questions really do become much more manageable, less intimidating.
This has been incredibly helpful. Really breaking it down like that clarifies things immensely. Thanks for walking us through all that.
My pleasure. Happy to help demystify it a bit.
And for everyone listening, remember, these strategies take practice to become second nature. Be patient. Apply them deliberately.
You'll get there.
Absolutely. So as a final thought to leave you with, consider this. The skill you're honing here, carefully analyzing a statement, comparing it against the source text, looking for precise meaning, contradictions, or missing information. How might sharpening that critical reading skill impact how you navigate information overload in everyday life? How might it help you better distinguish fact from assumption or opinion long after the exam is over? Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Welcome to the deep dive. We know you want to get straight to the point, learn fast, and not feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, cut through the noise.
Exactly. And that's what we do here. So today, we're tackling a really specific bit of the IELTS Academic Reading test. It trips a lot of people up, apparently. It's the identifying writers' views or claims questions.
Yes. The yes, no, not given ones.
That's the one. They look simple, but, well, they can be confusing.
We really can. So our mission, for this deep dive is to give you, the listener, a really solid grasp on how these questions work.
And strategies, right? How to actually handle them effectively.
Absolutely. We've dug into a guide that focuses just on this question type, looked at the strategies, the examples, all that good stuff.
Great. So let's dive in. First off, these yes, no, not given questions. What are they fundamentally asking the test taker to do?
Okay, so unlike maybe other questions where you're just pulling out facts.
Like dates or name.
Yeah, exactly. These ones test if you can spot the writer's opinion, their personal take on something.
So what they believe or what they're arguing.
Precisely. It's all about their perspective, their claim, not just information presented neutrally.
Okay, so it's less about, is this statement true in the world, or even, is this fact mentioned?
Right.
And more, does the writer specifically endorse this view?
You've got it. And the answers reflect that directly. Yes means, well, the writer's view matches the statement.
Simple enough?
And no means the writer's view contradicts it, like they disagree.
Okay.
And not, given this is the crucial one, sometimes means the writer just doesn't express an opinion on that specific point. It's not in the text.
And their opinion is absent.
Exactly. So interpreting the writer's stance, their belief, that's the core skill here. Understanding their argument, maybe even spotting bias.
That makes sense, especially for academic texts where perspective is everything. Now, you mentioned these sound a bit like true, false, not given questions.
Very common confusion.
Yeah, I can see why. So what's the absolute key difference our listeners need to lock onto?
Okay, the fundamental difference is the focus. True, false, not given is about facts and information presented in the passage.
Right. Is the information there, yes or no? Is it accurate according to the text?
Exactly. You're matching the statement to the factual data. Does the text say this happened or this number is correct?
Okay.
But yes, no, not given shifts completely. It's about the writer's opinions, claims, beliefs.
So you're asking, does the writer think this? Or is the writer arguing for this?
Yes. That's the question you need to have in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. A statement might be factually true.
Like something you know from general knowledge.
Yeah. Or even a fact mentioned neutrally in the passage. But if the writer doesn't actually express their own opinion or judgment about it,
Then for a yes, no, not a given question.
the answer could easily be not given because the writer's view isn't there.
Ah, okay. That's a really important distinction. A writer can present information without actually taking a stance on it.
Precisely.
So if that's the task, how do you actually, find these opinions? What are the practical tips for spotting the writer's view?
Good question. There are definitely techniques. First, you've got to really focus on the writer's voice. What are they saying?
Tune out your own thoughts.
Definitely. Your opinion doesn't matter here, nor does your background knowledge, tempting as it is to use it.
Okay, focus only on the writer. What else?
Look for opinion words. These are huge clues.
Opinion words. Like what specifically? Give us some examples.
Sure. Think about verbs that show a perspective is coming. Words like believes, argues, suggests, claims, maintains, or phrases like is convinced that.
Right, words that signal something more than just presenting a fact.
Exactly. They show the writer is interpreting, judging, or putting forward their own idea. When you see those linked to an idea, bingo, that's likely the writer's view.
Okay, look for those verbs. What about tone?
Yeah, tone is important too. Sometimes it's not just one word. Does the writer use strong adjectives, adverbs, certain sentence structures that, lean a certain way, even without saying I believe?
Got it. So it's like listening for their attitude through the words they choose.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned avoiding personal knowledge. Let's circle back to that because it seems like a major pitfall. Why is it so critical to ignore what you know?
It's absolutely critical because the test is assessing your understanding of the text, specifically the writer's views within that text.
Not your general knowledge on the topic.
Exactly. Even if a statement in the question aligns perfectly with your own strong belief or something you know to be a fact, if the writer in that passage doesn't express that same belief, you can't answer yes.
So you have to wear blinkers, almost. Only see what's written there.
That's a good way to put it. Like being a juror, only the evidence presented in court counts. Here, only the passage counts.
Okay, clear enough.
Yeah.
Now, let's tackle the big one. The difference between not given and no. People get tangled up here all the time.
Oh, absolutely. It's probably the most common confusion. But there's a clear distinction if you know what to look for.
Lay it out for us. No means what?
And no means the writer actively disagrees with the statement in the question. They've said something that is the opposite or directly contradicts it.
So there's a clear clash. The writer's view is present and it's contrary to the statement.
Precisely. A direct contradiction.
Okay. And not given.
Not given means the writer just doesn't say. Their opinion on that specific point isn't mentioned at all.
So no agreement, but also no disagreement.
Exactly. The passage might discuss the general topic, but the writer hasn't weighed in on that particular aspect or claim presented in the question. It's simply absent.
Can we have another example just to really nail this difference down?
Sure. Let's use this statement. The writer claims that space tourism will become affordable for the average person within the next decade. Now, scenario 1. The passage says, despite optimistic projections, the enormous costs involved mean space tourism will remain exclusively for the ultra-wealthy for the foreseeable future.
Right. That directly contradicts the idea of it being affordable soon.
So the answer there would be
Then no.
correct. Now, scenario 2. The passage discusses the technological advancements in space tourism, the companies involved, the potential experiences, but it never actually mentions cost projections or accessibility for the average person.
It talks around the cost issue, maybe, but doesn't give the writer's view on affordability in the next decade.
Exactly. It discusses the topic, but not that specific claim about affordability timeframe.
So that would be...
Not given.
Okay, that really helps. Not needs active opposition from the writer in the text. Not given is just silence on that specific point.
You've got it.
Yeah.
And one final tip really is about your reading approach.
How so?
You need to think like a critical reader. Don't just passively absorb the words.
View analytical.
Yes. Analyze the text. Try to understand the writer's underlying message, their purpose. What are they trying to persuade you of?
What's their agenda, maybe? Or their main argument?
Exactly. Look for the tone, any implied meanings. Dig a bit deeper than just surface-level reading. This helps you really lock on to their actual claims and views.
So it's about actively engaging with the writer's argument as you read.
That critical engagement makes identifying their specific stance Much easier.
All right, that's a lot of great advice. We've covered what they are, the key difference from true-false, strategies like looking for opinion words, ignoring outside knowledge, nailing no versus not given, and reading critically.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Let's try putting it into practice, maybe a quick example.
Good idea. Okay, here's a mini excerpt for you. While some research suggests a link between violent video games and aggressive behavior in teenagers, this author contends that other factors, such as socioeconomic background and family environment, play a far more significant role.
Okay, got it.
Now, here's the statement for you to evaluate. The writer believes violent video games have no impact on teenage aggression.
No.
No, or not given.
Okay. Let me think like a critical reader. The writer says some research suggests a link, but then says other factors play a far more significant role. They use contends, which is an opinion word.
Right.
But does more significant mean no impact for video games? The writer is downplaying the video game link, comparing it to other factors.
So?
They aren't explicitly saying no impact, they're just saying less impact compared to other things. So the writer's stated view doesn't perfectly match no impact.
And does it directly contradict it?
Well, no, it doesn't say they do have a big impact either. It's nuanced. So
Okay.
I think it has to be not given. The writer's specific view on whether there's zero impact isn't actually stated.
Spot on. That's excellent analysis. You saw the nuance. The writer minimizes the role, but doesn't eliminate it according to that sentence. Perfect example of why careful reading is key.
Phew. Okay, good. So let's quickly recap the main things our listeners should take away for tackling these yes, no, not given questions.
Okay, quick summary. 1, remember it's always about the writer's opinion or claim, not just facts in the passage.
Got it. Writer's view.
2, look for those opinion verbs, believes, argues, claims, and pay attention to the overall tone. They're your signposts.
Find the signals.
3, ignore your own knowledge or opinions. Stick strictly to what the writer expresses in the text provided.
Blinkers on. Text only.
4, really nail that difference between no, which needs a direct contradiction from the writer, and not given, which means the writer simply hasn't stated an opinion on that specific point.
Opposition versus absence.
Exactly. And 5, read critically. Look for the argument, double-check paraphrasing, make sure you understand the writer's actual stance.
Engage with the text.
And finally, as the guide we looked at emphasizes, practice with real IELTS materials. Get used to how opinions are phrased in that academic style.
Yeah, familiarity definitely helps build confidence, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It becomes more instinctive to spot the writer's voice and argument structure with practice.
So it's clear that getting good at these questions, well, it takes a bit of time, some focused effort. It's a skill you build.
It really is. It's not just about rules. It's about developing your analytical reading muscle, understanding perspective.
Which, as you said, is useful way beyond just passing a test.
Definitely. In studies, work, just understanding the world around you better.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on after this deep dive.
Go for it.
How does deliberately trying to identify an author's viewpoint, consciously looking for it, change how you read everything else? Not just for a test, but articles, books, anything.
Ooh, that's a good one. Makes you a more active, maybe more discerning reader overall, doesn't it?
Something to think about. Thanks for breaking all that down for us today.
My pleasure. Hopefully that clears things up for our listeners.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, a bit of a beast for many IELTS academic reading test takers. Matching headings questions.
Ah, yes. Definitely a tricky one.
Right. You've ever stared at that list of short summaries next to a dense passage and just felt completely lost? Well, you're definitely not alone.
Absolutely. It's a question type that can really feel counterintuitive, can't it? Even if your reading comprehension is generally strong.
Yeah.
Matching headings can sometimes just tank your score. So our mission today really is to give you some, let's say, sharper strategies, some key insights.
Good.
So you can face these questions, head on and hopefully see a real improvement in your reading score.
Exactly. Because you might be listening and thinking, look, I understand the paragraphs okay, but matching them to those headings, it just doesn't click. We get it. It's a really common frustration. And that's why we're doing this deep dive, to figure out what's really going on with these questions and, crucially, how you can consistently get them right. Okay, so let's jump right in. What exactly is the core skill IELTS is trying to test with matching headings?
Right. So at its heart, you've got a reading passage broken into paragraphs, and then you have a separate list of headings.
Yep.
Think of the headings like super condensed summaries, little mini headlines for the main idea in each paragraph. Your job is just to link the right heading to the right paragraph.
Sounds simple enough when you put it like that.
Well, here's the catch. The test is specifically designed so the headings almost never use the exact same words as the paragraph.
Right. Which is, let's be honest, incredibly frustrating when you're under pressure trying to find a match quickly.
Yeah.
You spot a word.
Exactly. You see a keyword, maybe two, that seem to line up, and you think, aha, got it.
Yeah.
And that's often the trap. It really is. They are not testing your ability to spot the word.
Okay.
What they're actually trying to gauge is your sort of deeper understanding. Can you grasp the core argument, the central theme of that paragraph? It's about the fundamental message, not just recognizing, surface level vocabulary. So if your strategy has been circling keywords and looking for repeats in the headings, well, it's probably time for a rethink.
Right. Okay. Less about being a word detective, more about understanding the actual meaning. So knowing that, what are some of the biggest mistakes people make with these questions?
Okay, well, one of the first big ones is trying to read every single word. Slowly, carefully.
Right. Which feels like the good student thing to do.
It does. And normally, careful reading is great.
Yeah.
But here, against the clock, it's just not efficient for matching headings.
Too slow.
Way too slow. You simply don't have time to dissect every sentence before you even look at the headings. A much better approach, initially anyway, is skimming and scanning. Get the general drift first.
Makes perfect sense. Get the overview before zooming in. Okay, what else? What other common pitfalls?
Well, we touched on it, but it's so important it bears repeating. Relying purely on keywords.
That trap again.
It's just such an easy trap to fall into. You see a word, it pops up in both places, your brain lights up match.
Yeah.
But maybe that word is just, a minor detail, not the main point the heading you want to capture.
Right. The heading needs to summarize the whole paragraph's main idea, not just one little bit.
Exactly. It has to be the headline for the whole story, not just a detail buried inside.
Okay. You also mentioned people ignoring paragraph structure. How does that hurt them?
Oh, yes. Think about how paragraphs are often built. The main idea, the topic sentence, is frequently right there at the start.
The first sentence, usually.
Often, yes. It sets the stage. And then very often, the last sentence will kind of wrap it up, maybe restate the main point in a different way, or offer a conclusion.
Okay.
The sentences in between, they provide the evidence, the examples, the details. So if you focus on those bookends, the first and last sentences, you can often get a really strong sense of the paragraph's main message quickly.
Without getting lost in the weeds.
Precisely. If you skip reading those key sentences carefully, you might miss the main point entirely. Seeing the trees, missing the forest,
Yeah, that's a great analogy, like reading the abstract and the conclusion first. Okay, any other major pitfalls?
One more big one is trying to force a heading to fit.
What do you mean by force?
Like, you have a heading left over, you kind of like it, and you try to twist your understanding of the paragraph to make it seem like a match, even when it doesn't quite feel right.
Wishful thinking.
Kind of. If a heading doesn't genuinely click as a clear summary after you've read the paragraph, it's almost always better to just leave it. Skip that paragraph for now.
And come back later.
Exactly. That heading might be a perfect fit for a different paragraph you haven't tackled properly yet. Don't force it early on.
Got it. Resist the urge to make it fit.
Mm.
Okay, so we know what not to do. Super helpful. Now let's get into the positive stuff, your winning system. The strategies that actually work.
Right. So, step one. Crucial step. Before you even seriously look at the list of headings, skim the entire passage.
The whole thing. Quickly.
Yeah, quickly, not deep reading. Just get a feel for the overall topic. What's the general subject? How do the ideas seem to flow from one paragraph to the next? Get the context, the big picture.
Okay, the bird's eye view first. Makes sense. Then what?
Then you go back, paragraph by paragraph. But here's the key mindset shift. You're reading to find the main idea, the core message, the gist.
The gist, I like that.
And this is where focusing on those first and last sentences really pays off. As you read, actively ask yourself questions.
Like what?
Like, what is this paragraph mainly about? What's its job here? Is it giving an example? Is it contrasting two things? Is it explaining a process, maybe? Or a cause and effect?
So understanding its function.
Exactly. Moving beyond just reading the words to understanding why the paragraph is there and what its central point is. And this leads directly to what we've said is absolutely key.
Let me guess. Paraphrasing.
You got it. Paraphrasing is everything. You have to accept deep down that the correct heading will probably use different words.
Synonyms and rephrased ideas.
Spot on. Synonyms, different sentence structures, rephrased concepts. This is where vocabulary helps, yes. But even more important is the skill of recognizing when two different phrases actually mean the same thing.
Understanding the meaning connection, not just word matching.
Precisely. It's about the semantics.
You had a really great example in the notes that makes this crystal clear. Can you share that?
Sure. So imagine a paragraph reads something like, children in rural areas often have to walk significant distances, sometimes several miles, to attend school. This daily trek can lead to considerable exhaustion and, consequently, negatively impact their academic performance.
Okay, got it. Long walks, tired kids, bad grades.
Basically, yes. Now, the correct heading for this might be the challenges of accessing education in remote locations.
Ah, I see. No identical words at all.
Not one. But the meaning lines up perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rural areas becomes remote locations. The difficulty of the walk to school is about accessing education, and the exhaustion and lower performance are clearly the challenges.
That's a fantastic example. It really shows you need to think about the underlying meaning. Okay, let's put the listeners to work. Quick mini practice.
Let's do it.
Okay, here's a short paragraph. In the 19th century, the introduction of new technologies and factories led to a dramatic increase in the speed of production. However, this period also saw a significant rise in the exploitation of child labor, a problem that was eventually addressed through the implementation of new labor laws.
Okay.
Now, three possible headings. A, the rise of factory safety regulations. B, advances in industrial production and their consequences. C, the invention of new machinery. Which one fits best and why?
Right. Let's break it down. Option A, the rise of factory safety regulations. Well, the paragraph mentions labor laws at the very end, but that's not the main focus, is it?
No, it misses the whole first part about production speed and child labor.
Exactly. It's too narrow. Focuses only on the resolution. Now, option C, the invention of new machinery. That covers the start of the paragraph, the new tech, faster production.
But it ignores the child labor problem and the laws.
Correct. Again, too narrow. It only gets half the story. So that leaves us with B, advances in industrial production and their consequences.
And that seems to fit.
It does. Advances in industrial production covers the new tech and speed, and their consequences covers both the bad consequence, child labor exploitation, and the later consequence of addressing it with laws. It summarizes the whole paragraph's scope.
Perfect. B captures both sides of the coin mentioned in the paragraph. Options A and C only grab a piece. Great. Now let's talk timing. Always a big issue in IELTS. Tips for managing the clock with matching headings.
Absolutely crucial. My main recommendation is aim for about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes max, per paragraph on your first attempt to find a match.
Okay, set a limit.
Yes. And if you hit that limit and you're still totally stuck on a paragraph, don't get bogged down.
Don't spiral.
Don't spiral. Just make a note, maybe put a question mark next to it, move on. Go find the easier matches first.
Oh, the low-hanging fruit strategy.
Exactly. Bag the easy points, build momentum, feel more confident. Plus, every heading you match correctly eliminates an option for the harder paragraphs.
Right. It narrows down the choices for the tricky ones later. Smart. Any other time savers?
A very simple, practical one. Physically cross out the headings on your list as you use them.
Seems obvious, but probably easy to forget under pressure.
It really is. But crossing them out just cleans up your view, reduces the mental load, and stops you accidentally trying to use the same heading twice.
Good point.
And like we said, leave the really tough ones till the end. Often the answer becomes clearer just by process of elimination once other headings are placed.
Okay, great practical tips. Now, how about actively trying to eliminate wrong headings? What questions should we ask ourselves?
Good question. When you're looking at a potential heading for a paragraph, ask yourself two things. First, does this heading really cover the whole main idea of the paragraph, or just like one sentence or one detail?
So breadth of coverage.
Yes. And second, is the idea in the heading the main focus of this paragraph, or is it just mentioned briefly, perhaps as an example or a side point?
Depth of focus.
Okay. Because IELTS often throws in headings that seem plausible because they match something in the paragraph, maybe a specific phrase, but they don't capture the overall message, the main thrust.
The distractors.
Exactly. You need to be sure the heading reflects the paragraph's central purpose and covers its main scope, not just a fragment.
Right. Don't pick a heading that just fits one line. Okay, makes perfect sense. Let's do a quick recap then. Pull together all these winning strategies, the keys to cracking matching headings.
Okay, let's summarize. Key strategies. Number 1, most important, match the meaning, not just the words. Think paraphrasing.
Meaning over keywords. Got it.
Number 2, pay special attention to the first and last sentences. They often contain the main idea.
The bookends.
Right. Number 3, actively work on recognizing synonyms and different ways of saying the same thing. Paraphrasing skill is crucial.
Build that recognition muscle.
Number 4, eliminate headings that only cover part of the paragraph. The right one reflects the whole main message.
No partial fits.
Number 5, practice. Use real IELTS materials. Time yourself. Get used to the pressure and the style.
Practice makes progress.
And finally, sort of number 6, work on your confidence. Knowing these strategies and practicing them really does build confidence, which helps you stay calm and think clearly.
Excellent summary. And the big takeaway, really, is that doing well here isn't just about speed or vocabulary size, is it?
Not at all. It's about strategic reading. It's about understanding the ideas, the logic, the main points being communicated. That's what's being tested.
Smart reading for accurate matching.
That's it, exactly.
Well, thank you so much. This has been incredibly helpful in demystifying what can be a really daunting question type. Those strategies feel very actionable.
My pleasure. And for everyone listening, really take these ideas and try them out. Apply them actively in your practice. A focused, strategic approach makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And remember, as you practice, that core skill identifying the main idea, understanding paraphrasing, it's not just for matching headings.
Oh, definitely not.
It's fundamental for the whole reading test, and honestly, for understanding complex information anywhere.
That's a fantastic point. Being able to cut through the noise, grasp the essence of a message, see past the surface words, that's useful everywhere, long after IELTS.
So true. Which leads to a final thought for everyone listening. How might really improving your ability to pinpoint main ideas and understand paraphrasing benefit you beyond the test? In your studies, your career, just in navigating information generally. Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know, something that crops up quite a bit when people are getting ready for the IELTS Academic Reading test is this sort of confusion between matching information and matching headings questions.
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic sticking point, isn't it? They
Yeah.
look kind of similar at first glance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where people can, get tripped up, maybe use the wrong strategy for the wrong question type.
And then points just start disappearing. It's frustrating.
Totally. So today we're really going to focus in. We want to pull these two apart, see what makes them tick differently.
Get right under the hood, basically.
Yes. And give you some solid, clear strategies for handling each one, like unlocking a new level in your IELTS game.
And we're drawing on some really good expert advice here, making sure it's practical stuff.
Definitely. So let's kick off with matching information. What
Oh.
exactly are we dealing with there?
Right. So with matching information, you get a list of statements. Think of them as specific bits of info. Could be facts, examples, maybe explanations.
Okay, specific details.
Exactly. Details taken straight from the passage. And your job is to figure out which paragraph contains that specific piece of information.
Ah, okay. So not the main idea of the paragraph.
No, that's the crucial difference from matching headings. This isn't about the overall theme. It's pinpointing where a specific detail lives in the text.
Like being a detective, sort of zeroing in on one particular clue rather than the whole crime scene.
Perfect analogy. And here's something really important. That clue, that specific detail, it could be anywhere in the paragraph.
Anywhere, not just the start or end.
Nope. Could be the first sentence, buried in the middle, or tacked on right at the end. You can't just rely on topic sentences like you sometimes can with other types.
That's a key takeaway already. So when we look at the statements we need to match, what kind of details are we typically hunting for?
Well, look for concrete things, like names, people, or places, reasons why something happened, numbers are a big one, dates, stats, that kind of thing.
Right, quantifiable stuff.
Yeah, or maybe comparisons being made, stuff you can really point to in the text. That's usually what these statements focus on.
Okay, so it's very much about finding specific evidence, not summarizing. Got it. Now let's really contrast these two side by side. Matching headings versus matching information.
Good idea. Let's break down the key differences. First up, focus. We've touched on this, but let's nail it down.
Yeah.
Matching headings, your focus is the main idea, right? The overall theme of that paragraph. What's it generally about?
The big picture.
Exactly. But with matching information, the focus zooms right in. It's all about those specific facts or details.
Big picture versus fine print.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what about where you find the answer in the passage?
Another big difference. For matching headings, often not always, but often the main idea is hinted at or even stated in the first or maybe the last sentence.
Right, the topic sentence or concluding sentence.
Yeah. So focusing there can give you a good clue. But matching information, like we said, that detail could be hiding absolutely anywhere within the paragraph.
So just reading the first line isn't going to cut it.
Definitely not. You need to be prepared to scan the whole thing, potentially.
Which leads naturally to the strategy, I guess. They must demand different approaches.
They absolutely do. For matching headings, you're generally skimming, reading fairly quickly to get the gist, the overall sense of the paragraph.
Understanding the main point.
But for matching information, it's much more about scanning. You're actively searching, looking for specific keywords or ideas from the statement. It's targeted.
Skim for theme.
Yeah.
Scan for detail. Got it. And what about the skills needed? Are they different too?
Yeah, slightly different emphasis. Matching headings relies heavily on paraphrasing and summarizing skills. Can you grasp the main idea and see it reworded in the heading options?
Right, recognizing the same idea in different words.
Precisely. Matching information still needs paraphrasing skills, but maybe at a more micro level. It also really tests your skimming and especially your scanning ability, finding those specific bits quickly, and of course matching the detail accurately.
Okay, so paraphrasing is important for both, but applied differently. Big ideas versus tiny details. How about time usage? Does one tend to take longer?
It can vary, but sometimes matching headings feels a bit more logic-based. You're figuring out the argument's flow. Matching information can sometimes feel more like pure hunting, keyword hunting.
Searching for the needle in the haystack.
Kind of. And if you don't have a good keyword strategy, that hunting can eat up time.
So maybe summing it up, matching headings is like finding the right mini summary for a paragraph.
Yeah.
Whereas matching information is finding the exact spot where a specific fact is mentioned.
That's a brilliant way to put it. Exactly right. Nailing that difference is step one.
Okay, cool. So we understand what matching information is about and how it's distinct. Let's talk strategy. How do you actually tackle these questions efficiently? Got a step-by-step.
Yep, definitely. A systematic approach helps a lot. Step one, absolutely crucial. Underline keywords in the statement you need to
The
find.
question statement itself.
Yes, so say the statement is, the writer explains how diet impacts mood. What are the core ideas?
Diet impacts mood.
Perfect. Underline those. Now you have clear targets to look for in the passage.
Right, creates a mental checklist. What's next after identifying keywords?
Step two, skim the paragraphs. Go through the passage paragraph by paragraph, but you're specifically scanning for those keywords or, and this is vital, their synonyms.
Synonyms, not just the exact words.
Exactly. Don't read super deeply at this stage. Just try to locate paragraphs that seem to be talking about diet or mood or the connection between them.
Okay, so spotting potential areas.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next big challenge.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing. You mentioned synonyms.
Yes. Step three is really being alert for paraphrasing. This trips so many people up. The IELTS tests understanding, not just word spotting.
So diet might not appear as diet.
Right. It could be nutrition, food intake, eating habits, and impacts. Might be influences, effects, has an effect on, is linked to. You've got to be flexible.
Don't get fixated on the exact vocabulary. Very important. Okay, so you find a paragraph with some keywords or synonyms. Is that automatically the answer?
Not quite. That leads to step four, the final check. Verify the meaning.
Meaning.
Just because the words diet and mood appear doesn't mean the paragraph says how diet impacts mood in the way the statement implies. You must read the relevant sentence or sentences carefully.
Okay.
Does the paragraph actually convey the same complete idea as the statement? Don't match based on just one keyword floating around. Check the context.
Crucial point. Easy to get misled otherwise. Okay, let's try a quick example to see this in action.
Great idea. Imagine this is a summary of paragraph B. Recent studies show regular physical activity boosts concentration and memory in adults. Exercise also reduces stress levels and improves sleep quality.
Okay, simple enough paragraph.
Now, here are three pieces of information to match. 1, a benefit of exercise related to mental performance. 2, a way exercise improves rest. 3, how physical activity helps with emotional balance.
Right, let's apply the strategy. Statement 1, a benefit of exercise related to mental performance. Keywords, benefit, exercise, mental performance.
Good. Now scan paragraph B. What do we see?
It says, physical activity boosts concentration and memory. Concentration and memory are definitely mental performance.
Exactly. So paragraph B is a match for statement 1. See how mental performance was paraphrased.
Yeah, got it. Okay, statement 2. Away exercise improves rest. Keywords, exercise improves rest.
And in paragraph B,
Improves sleep quality. Sleep quality definitely relates to rest.
spot on. So paragraph B is also the answer for statement 2.
Okay. And statement 3, how physical activity helps with emotional balance. Keywords, physical activity, emotional balance.
What does paragraph B offer?
It says exercise reduces stress levels. Reducing stress. Yeah, that definitely contributes to emotional balance, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It might not use the exact phrase emotional balance, but reducing stress is clearly linked. So paragraph B matches statement 3 as well.
Wow. So all 3 statements point to the same paragraph, paragraph B.
Exactly. And that's a massive difference from matching headings, where one heading matches one paragraph, period.
Right, matching headings is one-to-one. Matching information isn't necessarily one paragraph can hold the answers to multiple statements.
You got it. That's fundamental. Never assume a paragraph is used up after you match it once.
That example makes it crystal clear. Okay, let's talk time management. Scanning paragraphs for multiple things sounds like it could take ages if you're not careful.
It can. Efficiency is key. My advice. When you first identify keywords in a statement, maybe spend just, say, 30 seconds on that.
Okay.
Then, when scanning each paragraph for those keywords, give yourself a quick time limit, maybe around 45 seconds per paragraph per statement you're checking.
And if you don't find it in 45 seconds?
Move on. Don't get bogged down. Tackle the next statement or the next paragraph. You can always circle back to the tricky ones later if time permits.
Good advice. Prevent getting stuck. What about keeping track?
Yeah, maybe make a quick note of which paragraphs you've scanned for which statement, but the most important thing to remember track-wise is a paragraph can be used more than once. Don't cross it off your list mentally.
Keep it in play. Got it. Excellent tips. Now, what about common mistakes? Where do people often go wrong with matching information specifically?
Well, we've hit on some already, but it's worth repeating. Mistake number 1, relying on exact words. Huge pitfall. You must look for paraphrasing.
Expect synonyms and different phrasing. Okay. What else?
Mistake 2, not checking the full meaning. Spotting a keyword isn't enough. Does the sentence, the context, actually support the entire statement, or is it just mentioning the topic vaguely?
Right, the verify the meaning step we
Yeah.
talked about. Don't jump to conclusions.
Exactly. And the third big one.
Let me guess. Forgetting that paragraphs can be used more than once.
You nailed it. Ignoring repetition. People think, oh, I used paragraph C for question 5, so it can't be the answer for question 7. Wrong. It absolutely could be.
Those are really crucial traps to avoid. Okay, let's do a quick recap. The key cracks, the essential things to remember for matching information.
Right, let's boil it down. 1, focus is on specific facts, details, examples. 2, underline keywords in the statements. 3, scan the whole passage looking for those keywords, or are their paraphrased versions. 4, remember, paragraphs can be used more than once. 5, don't guess based on one word, read enough context to check the full meaning.
Brilliant, super clear. And just to visually lock in the contrast one last time, that quick table comparing the two types.
Yeah, let's summarize the contrast. Feature matching headings, matching information.
Match, main idea, match specific info.
Skim for the midges scan for specific detail keywords.
Used only once, can be used multiple times.
Paraphrasing big ideas, summarizing. Paraphrasing fine detail, synonyms.
Perfect. That table just lays it all out, doesn't it?
It really does. And truly understanding those distinctions, that's the foundation for improving your score on these question types.
So for everyone listening and prepping for IELTS, the message is clear. Practice applying these different strategies.
Yeah.
Notice when you're matching a main idea versus hunting for a specific fact.
Focus on keywords for matching information. Look for those synonyms, and always, always double-check the meaning fits the statement.
And don't forget, a paragraph might be the answer again.
Crucial point.
Definitely. Well, this has been incredibly helpful in untangling these two tricky areas.
Hope it clarifies things for people.
I'm sure will. And maybe a final thought to leave our listeners with as they practice.
Yeah, maybe think about this. Now that you see how differently these two question types operate in terms of focus, strategy, even how paragraphs are used, how might that influence your overall approach to the academic reading section?
Ooh, interesting.
Does understanding these differences change how you might manage your time across the whole test, or how you approach other question types as well? Something to mull over.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Okay, so you've brought us a really interesting one today, the IELTS Academic Reading, specifically that matching features question. Lots of listeners find this one a bit tricky, actually. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. Give you a solid roadmap. We want you to really get what these questions are asking and, give you strategies that actually work, help you tackle them confidently, save time, and hopefully avoid some of that frustration.
Absolutely. And fundamentally, this question type, it gives you, the test taker, two main things to work with. First, there's a list. Statements or bits of information taken straight from the passage. And second, you get a set of features. These are things you need to match the statements to. Think names of people mentioned, maybe places, specific dates, or even different theories the text discusses.
Right. And to make that really clear, let's use that example from your materials. Imagine a text mentioning 4 scientists, say Dr. Smith, Dr. Lee, Dr. Patel, Dr. Gomez. And each one has a different take on climate change. Then you might see statements like, believes human activity is the main cause, or thinks natural cycles are more important, or maybe focuses research on ocean temperatures. Your job, and this is the core of it, is linking each statement to the right scientist. Simple in theory, maybe harder in practice.
Exactly. And what this question type really digs into, what it's testing, is quite specific. It's not just finding words, it's testing if you can pinpoint very specific details or viewpoints. And crucially, can you spot when an idea is paraphrased, restated in different words? And also, importantly, can you tell the difference between features that might seem kind of similar at first glance? It requires careful reading.
Okay, so challenge understood. Now, the good stuff. Your sources are full of practical advice here. Let's dive into those strategies. First up, underlining keywords in the statements. Why is that so important, do you think?
Good starting point. By pulling out and underlining those key words, the key nouns, verbs, the core ideas, you're basically boiling each statement down to its essence. This gives you focus. When you go to the passage, you're not looking for a whole sentence necessarily, but for those specific concepts.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So find the non-negotiables in the statement first, like setting GPS coordinates before you start driving. Okay, next tip. Scan the passage for the features first. The names, dates, places. What's the logic there?
Well, often these features, especially proper nouns like names or maybe capitalized place names or dates, they tend to stand out visually in the text. So if you spot them first, you kind of map out where the relevant information is likely to be. Then you can zoom in and read those specific sections more carefully. It's about efficiency.
Okay, finding the landmarks first. But what if, say, Dr. Smith is mentioned like 5 times? How do you avoid getting bogged down?
That's a fair point. Even if a name appears multiple times, the context usually changes. So having those keywords from the statement already in your mind, like we just discussed, helps you sift through. You read the sentences around each mention of Dr. Smith and check. Does the meaning here match the statement I'm trying to place? It's sort of a 2-step. Find the feature, then analyze the context right around it.
Got it. Locate the landmark, then read the nearby street signs, which leads perfectly to the 3rd tip. Read carefully around the feature once you find it. Just spotting Dr. Smith isn't enough, is it?
Not at all. The answer is almost never a direct copy-paste right next to the name. You really need to look at the sentences just before and just after that feature appears. That surrounding text is usually where the key information is their opinion, what happened on that date, the description of the place is actually explained.
Right. Context is king. Understand why the name is there. Now, tip 4 is massive for IELTS generally. Yeah, expect a paraphrasing. This isn't word matching, right?
No, absolutely not. IELTS is testing comprehension, understanding meaning, not just vocabulary spotting. So if the statement says someone supports using fossil fuels, you probably won't find those exact words. You might find something like argues for the continued exploitation of coal and oil, or, believes non-renewable sources are still necessary. Recognizing these different phrasings for the same core idea is just fundamental.
It's so important for people to grasp. Think meaning, not just words. So it's not just synonyms like support for argue. It could be the whole idea rephrased, like could a major increase in sea levels become oceans underwent significant expansion? Something like that.
Precisely. They might change individual words, or they might restructure the whole sentence but keep the core meaning intact. Think about how cause and effect could be expressed differently. Being ready for that linguistic flexibility is key.
That's really helpful. Okay, 5th and final essential tip. Use elimination smartly, and always check the instructions about reusing features. Why are these two so critical?
These are, well, they can be real game changers for your score. Elimination first. If you're stuck on a statement, not sure which feature fits, try ruling out the ones you're confident are wrong. Often, that process of deduction points you straight to the right answer. And the instructions on reusing features is vital. Sometimes you can use Dr. Smith twice. Other times, each feature is used only once. Getting that wrong can cause a cascade of errors, even if you knew some answers. Check first.
Okay, so that's the toolkit. But your sources also flag some common pitfalls, mistakes people often make. Let's look at those so our listeners can actively avoid them. First one. Assuming a match just because one word appears in both the statement and your feature. Why is that dangerous?
Oh, this is such a common trap. You see a keyword, scan the text, find the same word near, say, Dr. Lee, and bam, you think you've got it. But maybe the sentence says Dr. Lee disagrees with the idea containing that keyword. Or it's used in a completely different context. You must check that the overall meaning matches, not just one word acting like, a false friend.
Right. Look at the whole picture, the actual meaning, not just shiny keywords. Second common mistake. Mixing up matching features with matching headings. What's the basic difference people need to keep straight?
Yeah, they sound similar but test different things. Matching features, like we've been saying, connects specific details, opinions, facts, findings to specific features like people or dates within the text. Matching headings is broader. It asks for the main idea, the central theme of a whole paragraph or section. So features specific points, headings main ideas of paragraphs.
Okay, that's a really clear distinction. Good to keep that mental separation. And the last common mistake loops back to something you just stressed. Not checking the instructions about reusing features. Sounds simple, but easily missed.
Incredibly easy to miss in the pressure of the exam, and the consequences are significant. It's worth saying again. If you assume one use only when reuse is allowed, you might waste time hunting for another answer when you already found the right one. And if you reuse a feature when you're not supposed to, well, you're guaranteed to get at least one answer wrong because of it. Honestly, reading those instructions carefully should be step 0 before you even look at question 1.
Okay, absolutely vital advice. Check the rules of the game first. So we've got strategies, we've got warnings about pitfalls. Your sources even offer a really neat, quick practice tip people can use right away. What's a good practical way for listeners to start building these skills?
Yeah, there's a nice little exercise. Find any short text, maybe a news article paragraph, that mentions a few different people, say 2 or 3 individuals. Read it carefully. Then, for each person, try to write one single sentence summarizing their main point or contribution in your own words. Then, the clever part. Create your own matching features question using that paragraph and the summaries you just wrote. This forces you to identify key info, link it to the right person, and practice paraphrasing, which we know is crucial. It hits all the key skills.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very active, very targeted. A great way to build that muscle memory right away.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up then, it seems clear that while matching features questions might look daunting at first, they are manageable, aren't they?
They really are. It comes down to understanding the task and having those strategies ready. Just to quickly recap those 5 essentials for everyone, underline keywords first, scan for features next, read around the feature name carefully, always expect paraphrasing, and use elimination, plus check those reuse instructions.
And remember the things not to do. Don't rely on single words. Keep features distinct from headings. And check those instructions on reuse.
And that little practice tip, summarize views, create your own questions. It's a really effective way to build confidence and skill.
Definitely. So thinking beyond the IELTS test itself, here's a final thought for you, the listener. This skill connecting specific details to people, ideas, or sources, where else could honing that ability give you a sharper edge? Beyond the exam, where else in your daily reading or information gathering could matching specifics to the bigger picture lead to a much deeper understanding, something to ponder? Until our next deep dive, keep reading, keep thinking.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Okay, so you're tuning in because, let's face it, you want to learn efficiently, right?
Yeah.
Get smarter faster.
Especially with something like a test, yeah.
Exactly, like the IELTS Academic Reading test, maybe looming on the horizon. And we know there's a specific point of confusion lots of people have.
Those question types that sound almost the same.
Precisely. Matching sentence endings versus sentence completion. They sound alike, but honestly, getting the difference. Total game changer.
It really is. I mean, both deal with, unfinished sentences, but What they're testing, the skills involved,
Yeah.
and the strategies you need. Quite different.
Like different puzzles, you said.
Yeah, exactly. Same idea of missing pieces, but you solve them differently.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to give you that recognition. We're going to break down each one,
Look at the tactic.
give you solid tactics, yeah, and point out the common traps, the things to avoid. Think of this as your, I don't know, express lane to nailing these IELTS questions.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the first one. Matching sentence endings. What's the core idea here?
Okay, so with matching sentence endings, you basically get two lists. First, a list of sentence beginnings in complete sentences,
Taken from the text.
lifted directly from the reading passage, yes. And second, you get another list. This one's potential sentence endings, usually, labeled A, B, C, and so on.
Gotcha.
Your job is to pair each beginning with the one ending that does two things. Makes a grammatically correct sentence, and this is crucial, accurately reflects the meaning from the original passage.
Okay, so it's not enough for it just to sound right grammatically in isolation.
No, absolutely not.
It has to be the right sentence based on what the text actually said.
Mm.
Can you, give us a quick example? Make it concrete.
Sure. Imagine you see sentence beginnings like, number 1, the study indicated that, and number 2, many historians believe that. Then you'd have a list of endings, maybe A, B, C, D, something like A, the initial findings were flawed, B, ancient civilizations had extensive trade networks, C, future research is unnecessary.
Right, a mix of possibilities.
Exactly. And your task would be to look at the passage, find where it talks about the study or historians, and figure out which ending A, B, C, or maybe others in the list correctly completes that thought according to the text.
Okay, I get the structure. So when you're actually facing these in the test, what's the best way to tackle them? Any pro tips?
Yeah, definitely. A really strong first move is to read all the sentence beginnings first. Really digest what they're about. What's the subject? What's the main verb?
Kind of anchor yourself in the core idea first.
Precisely. Understand the main point of that fragment.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then what? After you've read the beginnings?
Then take a quick look, just a skim through the list of possible endings. Don't get bogged down yet, but just get a general feel for the topics.
See what's on offer.
Right. And sometimes, even at this stage, you might spot an ending that clearly won't work grammatically with one of the beginnings.
Ah, like a quick grammatical mismatch check. Could save some time.
It can, yeah. Little shortcuts help.
Okay, so beginnings read, endings skimmed. Next step.
Now, the really crucial bit dives back into the reading passage. For each sentence beginning, you need to actively hunt down the specific section of the text that deals with that idea.
Don't just rely on memory.
No, definitely not. Pinpoint the source material for each one. Find where that idea is discussed.
Okay, really emphasize going back to the text there.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And once you've found that relevant bit of text, you're looking for the ending that satisfies two conditions. 1, the finished sentence has to be grammatically correct.
Hard to check.
And 2, equally vital. It must accurately represent the meaning that was actually expressed in the passage.
So, sounds right. And is right according to the text.
Got it. Is there a common mistake people make here, something to really watch out for? Oh yes, a really frequent trap is focusing too much on just matching keywords.
Ah, looking for the exact same words.
Exactly. People scan the passage for the same nouns or verbs they saw in the beginning or the ending options, but IELTS loves paraphrasing.
Right, using different words to say the same thing.
Precisely. They'll use synonyms, different sentence structures. So you really need to focus on understanding the meaning, the underlying idea, not just hunting for identical words. Relying only on keyword matching can easily lead you down the wrong path.
That's a huge tip. Focus on meaning over exact words. Okay, I think we've got a good handle on matching sentence endings now. Let's switch gears. What about sentence completion? How does that one work?
Right, sentence completion. So here you'll see sentences, again from the text or based closely on it, but they have gaps. Blanks.
This empty spaces.
Empty spaces, yeah. And your job is to fill those blanks using specific words or maybe a short phrase taken directly from the reading passage itself.
Okay, so a big difference right off the bat. You're not choosing from a list of options A, B, C.
Nope. No list provided for the answers themselves.
You're actually lifting the words straight out of the text.
Exactly. So you might get a sentence like, the research indicated a significant something something in the number of participants reporting side effects. And you need to fill that blank.
And the answer is just sitting there in the text somewhere.
It'll be explicitly stated yes. usually in the sentences around where the passage discusses that research or those side effects.
Okay. And I bet there are rules about how you actually write the answer in the blank.
Oh, absolutely. And probably the most important rule for sentence completion is paying super close attention to the word limit.
The instructions like no more than 2 words.
Exactly that. If it says no more than 2 words, your answer must be 1 or 2 words, no exceptions. If you write 3, even if it feels more complete, it's marked wrong.
Ouch. Okay, that's a critical detail. Adhere strictly to the word count. So, what are the best strategies for doing well on these sentence completion questions?
Okay, first thing, before you even glance back at the passage, read the incomplete sentence carefully. Understand its meaning, and try to predict, just roughly, what kind of word is missing.
Like, do I need a noun here? An adjective? A number?
Exactly. In that example about side effects, the blank comes after significant. You'd probably predict you need a noun there, something that describes a change, like increase or decrease or change.
Right. That helps narrow down what you're looking for when you scan the text. Good tip. What's next?
Next, you scan the passage. But remember that paraphrasing point. It applies here, too.
So the question might say significant, but the text might use marked or substantial.
Precisely. Look for synonyms, related concepts, ideas that match the meaning of the sentence, even if the exact words aren't identical.
Okay, scan for meaning, not just exact words, and when you find the answer in the text.
When you find the word or words in the passage that fit the blank, you must copy them exactly as they appear.
No changing the tense or the form.
None at all. If the passage says decline, you write decline. Not declining, not declined, even if you think that sounds better in the question sentence. Use the exact text word.
Okay, direct lift, no edits. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a final check after you've written it in?
Yes, always do this. Once you've filled the blank, read the whole sentence through. Does it make grammatical sense now?
Because sometimes the word fits the blank's meaning, but maybe it doesn't quite flow grammatically with the rest of that specific sentence.
It can happen. So that final read-through, just checking for grammatical coherence, is a really good safety net.
Very insightful. Okay, we've looked closely at both. Can we just crystallize the main differences, put them side by side?
Yeah, let's break it down. Key differences. First, the obvious one, the choices. Matching sentence endings gives you a list of endings to pick from.
Options provided.
Options provided. Sentence completion, you have to find and extract the words yourself directly from the passage. No list of answers.
Okay, that's difference number one. What about the focus? What are they really testing?
Matching sentence endings tends to test your logic, your grasp of grammar in connecting clauses, and your ability to understand the overall meaning and how ideas link together across the text.
Bigger picture connections.
Right. Sentence completion is more focused on grammar within that single sentence structure and, crucially, your skill at pinpointing and accurately pulling out specific vocabulary. Attention to detail.
So one is about linking ideas across sentences or paragraphs. The other is more about precision within a sentence.
You could put it that way, yeah. In terms of skills, matching sentence endings is really assessing your comprehension of complete thoughts and logical relationships. Sentence completion zooms in more on vocabulary recognition and your scanning skills for specific details.
Okay, that's super clear. Matching endings, big picture understanding and connections. Sentence completion, detail, vocabulary, precision, really helpful breakdown. Now, for everyone listening, what's something quick, practical they can do right now to practice these?
Yeah, okay, easy practice tip. For matching sentence endings, grab a short article, maybe an old newspaper piece or an IELTS passage if you have one.
Anything with a bit of text.
Anything. Read a paragraph. Then try writing 2 or 3 incomplete sentence beginnings based on what you just read. After that, create maybe 4 or 5 possible endings.
Like making your own mini quiz.
Exactly. Make some endings correct, matching the text's meaning and grammar, and make some plausible but wrong, maybe grammatically okay but factually incorrect according to the text, or vice versa. Then mix them up and try to match them correctly.
Oh, I like that. It forces you to think about both meaning and grammar actively. Very clever. What about for sentence completion practice?
Similar idea, but simpler. Again, take a short passage, read a few sentences carefully, then go back and basically delete some keywords, nouns, verbs, adjectives, leaving blanks.
Create your own fill in the blanks.
Yep. Then cover the original text and try to fill those blanks from memory. Afterwards, check back against the original passage to see how accurately you recalled the exact words.
That really hones in on recalling specific vocabulary and context. Both sound really doable. You don't need special materials.
Not at all, just some text and a bit of focus. And honestly, doing these simple exercises regularly, even for short bursts, can make a big difference in building confidence and familiarity.
Fantastic advice.
Mhm.
So hopefully, by really digging into the differences, the nuances between matching sentence endings and sentence completion, everyone listening feels much better equipped now.
More prepared to face them on test day, definitely.
You understand what they're asking, you have strategies, you're ready to tackle these IELTS reading tasks more effectively.
And knowing the difference helps you tailor your study time, too. Focus on the skills each one requires.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you to chew on after this deep dive. As you continue prepping for IELTS, reflect a little. Which one of these two types, matching endings or sentence completion, feels like it plays more to your natural reading strengths?
Interesting question.
Yeah, think about it. And then, how can you use that knowledge about yourself, your own strengths or maybe weaknesses, to be even more strategic in how you prepare for the reading test overall? Something to consider. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Simply English, making English easy with quick tips.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really zeroing in on two question types from the IELTS Academic Reading test. Ones we know can cause a bit of head scratching. Diagram label completion and short answer questions.
Yeah, those two definitely keep people on their toes.
Think of this as your focused strategy session, really. Our mission is pretty simple. Equip you with the clearest tactics so you can face these questions with, well, genuine confidence.
Absolutely.
We're drawing on a helpful resource, something titled IELTS Academic Reading Question Types Diagram Label Completion, which lays out the essentials quite well.
It does. And when you first see these formats, they might seem a little, I don't know, technical, but they follow a really logical set of rules.
Right.
Once you get the hang of that, you'll see they're actually quite manageable.
Okay, so let's jump straight into diagram label completion then. You see that diagram, maybe a machine or a process, with bits missing labels. It can feel a bit like a puzzle, can't it?
It can look that way, but really it's more about being a bit of a detective.
A detective. How so?
Well, you're connecting the visual clues, the picture, with the descriptions in the reading passage. It's testing your skill at pulling together info from different places, visual and text.
Ah, I see. Like interpreting charts or plans alongside a written report. That makes sense. It's a pretty useful skill, generally.
Exactly. So you might get a diagram of, I don't know, anything really. A gadget, a biological process, even a building layout. Your job. Fill in those blanks.
Okay.
Now, the absolute golden rule here, and this is crucial, you must use words taken directly, exactly, from the passage.
Right. So it's not a test of whether you remember your high school biology.
Not at all. Forget trying to recall things. It's not about what you know beforehand. And you definitely don't need any drawing skills either.
Okay, good to know. So put those old science notes away. The answers are all in the text. It's just about finding that specific connection between the picture and the words.
Precisely. And to do that well, you kind of need a game plan.
Okay, let's hear the game plan.
Right. So, step one. Always, always start by really looking at the diagram itself. Get a feel for the main subject, what it's generally showing.
Sort of get the lay of the land first. Like, what am I even looking at here?
Exactly. What's the big picture? What are the main parts or stages you can see? This helps you orient yourself before you even dive into the text.
Makes sense.
Then once you've got that overview, focus on the labels that are already there and, crucially, the blank spaces where the answers go.
Okay.
Start thinking, what kind of word probably fits here? Is it likely a noun naming a thing? Or maybe, a word describing a part of a process?
Ah, so you're predicting the grammar almost. That sounds smart. It narrows down what you're looking for.
It does. It gives you a target. Then the next big step, keyword hunting.
Okay.
Look at the words in the existing labels, any captions, anything written on the diagram. These are your anchors. Find those key terms.
And these keywords act like breadcrumbs leading you back into the passage.
Pretty much, yeah. They guide you to the right neighborhood in the text. But what if you find keywords for different diagram parts close together in the passage?
Oh, good question. How do you handle that?
Well, you need to keep the specific blank you're trying to fill in mind. If you're working on, say, the top part of the diagram, look for the text describing that initial stage or upper component. Don't get distracted by keywords related to the bottom part just because they're nearby.
Right, so stay focused on the specific label you need. Don't just grab the first related word you see.
Exactly. So you scan the passage, looking specifically for those keywords or maybe synonyms. When you find the section that seems to describe the bit of the diagram you're focused on, that's your hunting ground.
Okay, found the spot. Now what?
Now you need to pinpoint the exact word or words needed for the label.
And that's where that precision thing comes in again, isn't it?
Absolutely vital. It's not about the general idea. It's about lifting the specific terms the passage uses. And then, this is the part you just cannot ignore, the word limit. Always check the instructions. They'll say something like, no more than 2 words.
Okay.
If you write 3, even if your answer is basically right, you get 0 points for it.
Wow, okay. Strict.
Yeah.
So let's try an example. Maybe something like a diagram of a plant, and there's a blank pointing to the leaves.
Okay, good one. And let's say the passage has this sentence. Photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplasts located in the leaves of the plant.
Right.
Now, if the instruction says no more than 1 word, what's the answer?
Well, it happens in the leaves, but the sentence specifies chloroplasts are located there, and that's where photosynthesis happens. So maybe chloroplasts.
Exactly, chloroplasts. It's 1 word, directly from the text, and it labels a specific component within the leaf mentioned in that sentence. You wouldn't write leaves because the arrow might be pointing inside the leaf structure conceptually.
And you definitely wouldn't write takes place in Karate or anything like that.
No, absolutely not. You need the label. And if the limit was, say, no more than 2 U words, you might still choose chloroplasts as the most precise label for what's likely being pointed at in a detailed diagram. The word limit forces you to be super precise.
Okay, that makes it very clear. Precision and word count are key.
Definitely. Now, should we switch gears to the short answer questions?
Yeah, let's do that. These seem, on the surface anyway, maybe a bit more straightforward. Read question, write short answer.
Making some simpler, yeah. Which is maybe why people sometimes slip up on the details.
The devil's in the detail again.
Pretty much. Just like with diagrams, you've got that strict word limit, usually 1, 2, or 3 words. And again, the absolute rule is take the words directly from the passage.
No paraphrasing, no using your own words. Verbatim.
Verbatim. It's testing if you can locate specific information and reproduce it accurately within limits.
Yeah.
A skill you need all the time in academic reading, right? Knowing exactly what's being asked.
True. So strategy. Similar starting point.
Very similar. First, read the question carefully. Really understand what piece of information it's asking for. Is it a who, what, where, when? Identify the core of the question.
And look for keywords in the question itself, I guess.
Absolutely. Those keywords are your search terms for scanning the passage.
Okay, like navigation tools again.
Yep. You scan the text, looking for where the answer is directly stated. And remember, it will be stated explicitly. You don't need to infer or guess.
So no reading between the lines here. Just find the sentence that gives the answer straight up.
That's right. Find it, then extract the answer. Make sure it answers the question directly. And here we go again. Stays within that word limit.
The word limit strikes again.
It's non-negotiable. If it says no more than 3 words and you write 4, even if the core info is right, the answer is marked wrong.
Okay, message received. Stick to the limit. How about an example for this one?
Sure. Let's say a passage includes, the cheetah is the fastest land animal, capable of reaching speeds up to 112 kilometers per hour. And the question is, which animal is the fastest on land?
Right, based only on that sentence. It's got to be the cheetah. 2 words.
Perfect. The cheetah. Directly from the text answers the question within a typical limit.
You wouldn't write like a cheetah or just cheetah, or the cheetah is fastest.
Well, the cheetah is exactly what the text says identifies it in that sentence structure. The cheetah is fastest is too long and adds words not needed just to name the animal. You want the most precise phrase from the text that answers which animal. The cheetah fits perfectly.
Got it. Exact words, right length. Simple, but needs focus.
Exactly. Now, maybe we should touch on common mistakes people make with both these types.
Yeah, good idea. What trips people up?
Well, one big one is pulling the answer from the wrong section of the text. You find a keyword, maybe, but it's in a paragraph discussing something else.
So you need to be sure the context matches the question or the diagram part.
Right. Context is crucial. Don't just grab a word because it looks familiar. Double check it relates directly.
Okay, what else?
Writing too much, especially in short answer. If the question asks for a name, just give the name. Don't write a whole sentence about it.
Stick to what's asked and the word limit.
And that goes for diagrams too. If you just need a noun for the label, Don't throw in extra adjectives from the sentence unless they are clearly part of the required label according to the text and word limit.
Right. Keep it lean.
Also, watch out for little words like a and the. Generally, leave them out unless they are clearly part of a specific name or phrase used as the answer in the text.
Example.
If the text says the answer is the engine and the limit is 2 words, you write the engine. But if the answer is just, say, fuel, and the limit is 1 word, you just write fuel, not the fuel, unless the passage specifically uses the fuel as the key identifying term in that context.
Okay, that's a subtle but important distinction. Extract only the essential identifying words.
Exactly. And finally, the really obvious one, but so easy to mess up under pressure.
Spelling.
Spelling, yes. You find the right word, copy it down wrong. Oops, no mark.
Oh, yeah. That would be frustrating.
And do that final check. Did I stay within the word count? Always double check the word count.
Okay, so let's try to recap the main principles then.
Oh.
For both diagram labels and short answer questions, success really hangs on what? Careful reading.
Careful reading, definitely, of the question, the diagram, and the passage.
Finding the exact spot in the text.
Precise location of the information, yep.
And then just really strictly following the instructions.
Especially those word limits and using the exact words from the text. No improvising.
Right. It's all about attention to detail.
It really is. They're not designed to be deliberately tricky, I don't think, but they do test your ability to follow instructions to the letter, which is, a pretty important academic skill.
Yeah, you can see that. And the good news, I suppose, is that practice should help.
Oh, absolutely. Like any skill, the more you do it, the better you get. You'll start to see the patterns, you'll get quicker at scanning and identifying.
But don't be discouraged if it feels slow at first.
Not at all. Focus on accuracy first. Nail down the technique, understand why the answer is what it is. The speed will come naturally with practice.
Get it right. Then get fast. Makes sense.
Yeah. Start slow and deliberate. Repetition builds that efficiency.
This makes me think, something for our listeners to consider. How do these skills, like extracting very specific information, following strict rules, how might that apply outside of just passing the IELTS test?
That's a great point. Think about academic research. You need to pull specific data, quote, accurately, follow citation rules. Very similar skills.
Or even in professional life, right? Reading technical manuals, following protocols, writing precise reports.
Exactly. Any situation where you need to understand detailed information and follow guidelines carefully, it's about precision, attention to detail. These aren't just test-taking tricks. They're genuinely useful cognitive skills.
Huh. That's actually quite a thought-provoking angle. It gives a bit more purpose to practicing these seemingly fiddly question types.
It does. So yeah, keep practicing. Pay really close attention to those instructions when you're working through examples. And just remember, the answers are in the text. You just need to find them carefully.
Great advice. Well, thanks for diving deep with us today. We really hope this has helped demystify diagram label completion and short answer questions a bit.
Hope so too. Good luck with your practice, everyone.
Until our next exploration, keep learning and keep digging deeper.
Keep practicing, keep improving. See you in the next lesson. Subscribe for more.